Hey, welcome back to another video. So the last video we covered was about the last 3 out of the 6 signs of emotional drain. Okay, so this next point we're covering is going to cover how to deal with energy vampires. Remember, this series of videos is covering energy vampires. So we're going to dive right into 5 tips on how to deal with them. So it starts off with, you can also be an energy draining vampire. They're all around us, so maybe you are that person. And it's not necessarily to say that you're the bad guy being that person, but with what this says next, maybe you want to think about this. So you can also be an energy vampire depending on the circumstances in your life. For instance, there are times in your life when you might be extremely needy and codependent depending on what you're going through, right? So now that changes your perception. Maybe you're being needy and you're draining someone else because of whatever it is that you're dealing with and going through in life. That shifts the perspective, doesn't it? If you have ever needed someone to fill an empty space or need in your life, you probably are an energy vampire at that moment. So something to think about. All right, let's move on. Would it not be easier to just let ourselves exist in our natural states as well-meaning but somewhat needy people who sometimes suck the soul out of others without intending to? The very first thing you need to do when dealing with an energy vampire is to recognize them for who they are. A quote by Maya Angelou: when a person tells you who they are the first time, you should believe them. So sometimes we may get to know a person and we may feel a particular way about them. And we may say, oh, okay, this person is in this mood because of X, Y, and Z. When we know, okay, this person is being a jerk at the moment, and this is not an accidental once in a while because for a reason type of thing. No, this is just how this person is. And because you have whatever your way is towards them, you're making excuses for them. So just keep it plainly put. Recognize them for who they are. If the feeling you get after spending time with someone is constantly negative, consider this a red flag. So that example I said about being a jerk. Nobody enjoys someone being a jerk all the time. And especially, like it says, after you're done dealing with them, you're feeling the way you're feeling. And it's not positive or the way you were before you dealt with that person. So pay attention to that. Okay, moving on. So I said 5 tips. Tip number 1, recognize them for who they are. We say perhaps they're having a bad day or perhaps they're dealing with tough times in life. We make excuses for people when deep down we know they're just bad for us and that they are indeed not having a bad day. I just said that, did I not? Okay, moving on to tip number 2. It says to ground yourself. What do you mean, Armani? Do you mean like how parents punish their kids? You're grounded. No, okay. So it says grounding yourself involves knowing who you are, understanding yourself, and remaining true to who you are so that you are not easily swayed by people who come in and out of your life. I have had to learn this the hard way. So I would allow people to come in and out of my life, and they're in for the moment, and I'm grateful, and then they're gone the next, and I'm sad. And I'm like, geez, well, now I got to deal with this all over again, right? So it says it is vital that you have a clear and solid understanding of your individuality and your energy. Energy vampires have a way of identifying vulnerable people that they can take advantage of. Vulnerable people include those who are easily influenced. So if you feel some type of way about yourself and they know that, they can take advantage of that. If someone talks about you and you just shrug it off like nothing, or you shoot back at them, or something like that, then they know, okay, maybe you're not the one that's easily swayed, and you could have potentially avoided energy draining vampires. Tip number 3, remember to always protect your personal space at all times. Another one I had to learn the hard way. Personal space acts as a barrier between us and the world around us. Protecting your personal space means being careful with who you allow in your life. I was just such a nice person, a giving person. I just made friends with anybody and I just shared stories with anybody. And then I learned the hard way. They would take my information and they would throw it back in my face. It would backfire and they would try to ruin my life. You know what I mean? So I'm sure other people have experienced that, but that's as an example of protecting your personal space. Let just those you very closely in love and trust in on your personal business, and everybody else, keep your distance. Keep your information to yourself. So the next part, it says, if you make it easy for an energy vampire to intrude in your personal space, you will be setting yourself up for a whole lot of heartache and emotional drain. Just said that. While it is a nice thing to be friendly to the people you come across, it is not your obligation to be friends with everyone. I had a hard time saying no. I wasn't very good at saying no to people. So, of course, I was easy to be taken advantage of. Moving on. If you absolutely must deal with an energy vampire, consider doing so while in a group setting so that you can protect some of your energy. Some people don't have a choice but to deal with these types of individuals. And so with doing so, they are forced to like get all that energy on them all the time, and they're not able to get a break or get away from it. So it's recommending, if you must, then see if you can be around other people so that all of that is not hugely targeted on you, if that makes sense. Moving on to tip number 4. Everyone has topics that they feel strongly about. Avoid the energy vampires trigger topics. So if it's something like something that they particularly talk about all the time and it's so negative and you can feel it pulling on you, you're like, why is this person always talking about blah, 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 right? Try to steer the conversation in a different way so that they can talk about something different, and hence now the mood is different. So you don't have to continue to feel that every time you have a conversation with this person. Okay, that's tip number 4. Lastly, remember that you do not have to deal with an energy vampire, tip number 5. So just because you're around that person, you have a right to walk away. You have a right to not speak, not say nothing in return. You have a right to say, I don't want to be a part of this conversation. You have a right to move on with your life. You have a right to not be friends with this person, right? So don't feel obligated just because you're around that person and just because you've conversated or maybe you made friends with this person or got close, however, whatever the situation may be. Do not feel obligated if you did not make a commitment. But even if you did make a commitment, you still need to preserve your energy, right? So that does not mean that you are forced to be around this person's presence when they're being negative or being draining. Okay, because that's not good for your emotions and that's not good for your mental health. Okay, so I want you also to understand that it's not your job to fix the way that this person is, right? So maybe you feeling like you're obligated to pretty much be the target. Well, maybe things that are in this person is so deeply ingrained in why they are the way that they are that they need professional help. That's not for you. That's for a professional. I hope you guys gained value. I hope you guys gained some knowledge and understanding on 5 different tips of how to deal with energy vampires. Make sure you go get this book and learn something. It's a great read. Do me a favor and comment down below if you learned something new. Comment down below if you know anybody that have these signs and symptoms of being an energy vampire. Please share some of your experiences, and I'd love to chat with you and conversate with you on these things and get some feedback from your opinions. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you enjoy this content because I continue posting on it. And like I said, what are you still here for? It's time to get to work. Enough said. Let's go.